Okay. Namaste, everyone. A warm welcome to you all. Asia's Linear Infrastructure Safeguarding Nature, Align, in collaboration with Global Tiger Forum, would like to welcome you all for part one of the webinar series on safeguarding nature in tiger range countries. I am Ridhima Solanki, Public Sector Partnership Coordinator from WWF India. I'm joined by Mr. Mohnish Kapoor, Head Program and Partnership from Global Tiger Forum. We are joined by our colleagues, Mr. Pramod Neopane, Lead Align, Mr. Somrit Bhattacharya, Communication Manager, Mr. Arun Kumar, Senior Coordinator. We will be discussing about this webinar series and the speakers in upcoming. But before that, for the opening remark, I would like to invite Ms. Kate Newman, the Vice President, Public Sector Initiative and Infrastructure, WWF US. With over 3 decades with WWF, Kate has worked on diverse and amazing themes on biodiversity conservation. Ms. Kate specializes in policy development and conservation planning in support of nature-positive infrastructure. We will be hearing her opening remark for this webinar.
Thanks very much. Well, I'm really honored today to provide remarks at the opening of this really exciting series on one of the most important and fascinating topics of my career, tiger conservation. For a number of years, I worked on mobilizing public sector funding to support the nascent T×2 concept, culminating in my participation in the most amazing Tiger Summit, that one that occurred in St. Petersburg. During that same year, the Global Tiger Initiative launched the best report I had seen to date on the relationship between infrastructure development and conservation. It was called Smart Green Infrastructure in Tiger Range Countries, a multi-level approach. This document helped prepare the 13 heads of government to include infrastructure in the St. Petersburg Declaration on Tiger Conservation. It was one of the earliest government commitments I had seen on addressing the impacts of infrastructure on biodiversity. In the declaration, they said that they would do everything possible to effectively manage, preserve, protect, and enhance habitats, including making critical tiger habitat breeding areas and violet areas within the larger tiger conservation landscapes where no economic or commercial infrastructure development or other adverse activities are permitted. That was innovation. That kicked off more than a decade of innovative work on tiger range countries to meet the essential infrastructure needs of their populations, but in a manner that maintains the ecological integrity of tiger habitats. One of the most recent projects to address this challenge is the Align project that Ridhima mentioned. It's Asia's linear infrastructure safeguarding nature, and it's funded by the United States Agency for International Development, a longtime supporter of tiger conservation across Asia. The project is implemented through a partnership between WWF and the Center for Large Landscape Conservation with the governments of India, Mongolia, and Nepal. So we envision that this interactive dialogue series, supported by Align, will provide insights on bridging knowledge and capacity gaps and exploring financial solutions for implementing safeguards for nature in the development of linear infrastructure. It will showcase country-specific efforts and plans for mainstreaming green infrastructure practices throughout the infrastructure lifecycle in key biodiversity-rich habitats, particularly with a focus on tigers. Align looks forward to pulling together the extensive firsthand knowledge, material that we expect to get from each of these sessions, and then archiving it as easily accessible information for future use by development planners, conservation practitioners, and others interested in playing a part in greening the infrastructure of our future. And we also aim to develop a synthesis document on the opportunities available for safeguarding nature and tiger habitats across Asia. designed to bolster the development of policies and practices around smart green infrastructure by park managers and other stakeholders involved in tiger landscape management. Indeed, the recently developed Global Tiger Recovery Program 2.0 includes the development of smart green infrastructure and retrofitting measures for linear infrastructure in its landscape approach. So we see the objectives of the Align project as fully in sync with GTRP 2.0. In India, for example, we're promoting cross-sectoral partnerships to facilitate the integration of biodiversity in the infrastructure sector. In Nepal, we're building wildlife-friendly safeguards and practices into university curricula for both foresters and engineers. And at the global level, we're working with the International Federation of Consulting Engineers to develop clear guidance and capacity support for designing biodiversity-sensitive linear infrastructure models that reinforce national safeguard standards. It's really exciting to see here both infrastructure developers and financial institutions together in this webinar series as they explore the importance of a cross-sectoral integrated approach to safeguarding nature and linear infrastructure. We're optimistic that this new webinar series will contribute to the vital theme of smart green infrastructure development as tiger range countries across Asia embark on developing their new conservation plans and strategies and continue building on their real success in bringing back this magnificent guardian of our natural world. So thank you very much for having me and have a wonderful webinar.
Hi everyone. I now take this opportunity to introduce Dr. Rajesh Gopal. Dr. Gopal has led conservation efforts on the tigers in India for over 4 decades. Under his guidance, the country has undertaken milestone initiatives like the formation of NTCA, Wildlife Crime Control Bureau, and the much talked about countrywide tiger assessment, which is being replicated in several other tiger range countries. He continues to champion the cause across range countries and is widely regarded as the tiger guru of the world. I take this opportunity to invite Dr. Rajesh Gopal for his remarks on this webinar. Namaste, sir.
Namaskar. Thank you, Munish, and good to see all participants. And to start with, I compliment the organizers, WWF, said, and of course several others who are there in organizing this webinar. Compliment all of them for this timely we have some insights about the tiger, predators and prey. Tiger is a species of metapopulations. You see them linked to each other in small populations, linked to a larger source area. That means you have to look beyond. If you want to save tigers, you have to invest in the area where you are aiming to have some kind of a surplus within the carrying capacity of that habitat. And then also, centrifugally, you have to envision at a macro scale, at a landscape scale, what should happen preferably and what should not happen. Some do's and don'ts or go or no go area. This we call as the landscape strategy. And to achieve this, to achieve some kind of a sustainability becomes extremely crucial. You have to have a sustainable landscape, peripheral landscape. If you want your source areas, tigers, a tiger population to be viable. What do I mean by sustainability? For a group like this, all of us are aware. We have the three cardinal pillars: economic, environmental, and equity, bridging the disparities, whether it is health or whether it is income, whether it is standard of living, whatever it is, because there are several stakeholders who operate in a larger landscape, and factoring in, which of course includes the local people, the primary people who depend on nature and natural resources, quite a few of the tiger range countries. Now, for this, uh, we require to factor in the concerns of tiger, or for that matter, tiger. Take tiger as an indicator, having several dimensions of, I mean, of bringing good to bringing gains to people and the biodiversity, multidimensional indicator, and that takes us close to the stability target. For that to be viable in the larger landscape, and it has to, the larger landscape is important because they move from source areas. Gene porosity, we have to foster that. Otherwise, you can't afford to have insular populations. So the landscape level engagement becomes important. So mainstreaming becomes important, factoring in the consumer. For this to happen in different sectors which are involved in development, we have the smart, we have the green infrastructure. And what do we mean? We all know green infrastructure. You dovetail nature and the interests of nature or biodiversity into other schemes of development, other things, whatever your actions, whatever is going to happen there. And if you bring in a bit of technology in this, it becomes smart green infrastructure. Now, Malaysia has, so you have a green infrastructure. It may not have technology in that. It may be just integration of lakes and rivers and a scalar integration, and you can achieve certain bring gains to the society as well as to the biodiversity. If you bring in a lot of technology and new things, artificial intelligence and all that, becomes smart green infrastructure. These are important for tiger range countries. Malaysia has already taken the lead in the context. So we are aware of the central spine, and we are aware of the aqueducts and so many things they have done. They'll be showing some quite a, I mean, many insights are there. We'll be hearing them. So I would like to stop here because I have the habit of going on and on. So thank you so much for giving me the floor. And this is a very, very important topic. And I compliment once again the organizers and wish this webinar all the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. That was very insightful, and we really appreciate that you are appreciating our work also. So thank you so much. And as rightly said, that was Dr. Rajesh Gopal, Guru, when it comes to tiger ecology, definitely for that. With that, I would like to invite the remarks from Secretary General and CEO WWF India, Mr. Ravi Singh. Mr. Singh's role in conservation fields need no introduction. He has played multiple roles in his career, inclusive of head of International Financial Institute, as well as a teacher. Mr. Singh has been member of several government committee, which was responsible and contributed in amendment of Wildlife Protection Act. He is also committee member of State Board of Wildlife and National Board of Wildlife. Mr. Singh is also a member of WWF's Network Executive Team. With that, I would like to invite the remark from Sir.
We have planned this meeting, this interaction, seminar around safeguarding nature and with particular direction for linear infrastructure as it relates to tiger landscapes. So we're trying to make it as relevant for tiger range countries and the work of the conservation management of large landscapes and where the tiger is prevalent, And we hope by sharing our experiences and our expertise, we will be able to take this matter forward. As you know, the development is a major agenda in all of Asia. A large amount of investment is likely to happen, ongoing, and that has to be countered by some amount of change in the way the infrastructure has been designed or has been located or has been placed, so that the flow of nature, the flow of the ecosystems, the basic structure of these ecosystems is maintained. I don't need to emphasize this aspect for conservationists, but certainly we worked very closely with infrastructure companies like the National Highway Authority of India, in the development of railway bridges with the Indian Railways. We also worked on planning, town planning matters with the city of Dehradun, the city of Coimbatore. We have studies on Kolkata. We've done work in interacting with Rishikesh. And all these places, we looked at it not just from a point of view of the city itself, but also the well-being of the citizens and the entire map and landscape map in which it sits. We'd like to share exact examples. We'd like to share our knowledge that we have gained over the years, which we have done, by the way, in collaboration with a large number of our teams in our landscapes, but particularly with the National Tiger Conservation Authority, with the Wildlife Institute of India, and from time to time other institutes in the different states, in Tamil Nadu, in Bhopal, and in Guwahati. So somehow, when we work on these aspects, let's try and also combine other aspects, which are or other areas of work. For instance, water, the flow of rivers, the inflows to the rivers, the impact of agriculture, the impact of the way irrigation channels have been designed, or have they, where rivers need to be revived. These are all parts of the same story, and therefore these also should be covered in our discussions and meetings. And I just like to say that to a large extent, I have seen parts of projects in India where actual segments have actually shown a lead in the way these projects can be designed. The layout of the highways, the future direction that the government has given with regard to sensitivity to the landscapes that they're going through, the importance of nature and connectivity, those have been put into the design, and these are not from a point of view of retrofitting, these are those which have to be adopted at the very planning stage. Retrofitting has cost money to our country in several cases, but we have actually seen designs work, and flyovers, underpasses, where we see that life has continued to move, animals have continued to move from one area to the other, and even breeding tigresses have taken shelter in some of these areas. So these are important aspects. We'd like to share more of them. And I wish you all a very good meeting, very productive meeting, and hopefully we'll come up with a list of points which we can take to our respective governments at the state as well as in the center, and to see to it that these are understood in a way that we can see an adaptation of the objectives that we have decided on. Thank you.
Sir, for those insightful remarks and your encouragement to take up this initiative. And on behalf of the GTF and WWF and all the partners, I thank you for all the support and guidance that you have given to this cause. Now, we have the speakers from today. Before I introduce them, I'll also like to give a backdrop that why we chose Malaysia as the first country. So this will be a webinar series, and we wanted to start with Malaysia because over the years, our efforts beyond South Asia specifically, and we all know the challenges in Southeast Asia with the kind of dwindling tiger population, and but the efforts that Malaysia has taken are spellbound. It's really good how they are managing their tiger recovery. They are bringing the tiger governance at par with what we see in other countries. They have also championed and tried to bring together other regional uh, uh, protected areas and other regional Southeast Asian TRCs also into the fold of tiger conservation. Plus the concept of central forest spine, the national physical plan, which gives a very strong legal mandate to take up conservation efforts much beyond the notified protected areas. So it's very special to have all of my friends from Malaysia, and then of course we have uh, another colleague from the World Bank, Ms. Neha Vyas, who has worked a lot on the green infrastructure initiatives from the bank side, and her perspective of how the resources can be linked to developing more green infrastructure projects and the larger biodiversity portfolio would really be appreciated. So I welcome all my uh, three friends in this webinar, and first I'll invite Mr. Salman Saban. I'll give a brief introduction. Again, as I mentioned, he has been one of those pioneer members of the GTF larger family, and Hazril ji and Salman ji both have been really contributing to our goals and objectives of tiger conservation. So, Mr. Salman bin Saban currently serves as the Director of the Protected Areas Division at the Department of Wildlife and National Parks, known in the local language as Perihilitan, Peninsular Malaysia. He graduated with a Bachelor in Science in Forestry, honors from the University Putra, Malaysia. His 28-year stint with Perihilitan started as an elephant research officer in December 1996. He's also the focal person in implementing the Pelan Induk Rangkaian Ecology Central Forest Spine 2022 and various elephant research projects in Peninsular Malaysia. At the international level, he has been appointed as representative for Malaysia on various occasions, such as the Asian Elephant Rain States Meeting, the Asian Elephant Specialist Group. He is a member of the Asian Elephant Specialist Group, Asian Elephant Transport Working Group, and Tapir Specialist Group, illegal wildlife trade on ivory from African countries and illegal killing of elephants became his primary concern when he was appointed Enforcement Division Director in 2017. His commitment to the CITES MIC program began in 2002, and with his vast experience in July 2021, the Malaysian Public Service Department recognized him as a subject matter expert for Proboscidea in Malaysia. So, with that incredible work that you have done, sir, I take this opportunity to invite you for giving this presentation.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mosnish, my old friend. And very good afternoon to all of you, to the participants and to the secretariat. So I was asked to give a very short or brief about this green infrastructure planning for protecting wildlife habitats in the case of in Malaysia. Okay, next. So this is my background of my presentation. I will talk about this impact of the linear transportation infrastructure or LTI. And the second is on the conservation approaches that we have in Malaysia. I will touch on the Central Forest Spine and also the wildlife impact study and also wildlife management plan and the implementation right now, such as a signboard, wildlife crossing sign, transverse bar, and also the viaducts And the last one is talk about the case study for the East Coast Rail Link or ECRL project. And the last one is a conclusion. So as we know that, I think this very familiar about this the impact of this to build the road or the railway. Of course, the first impact is the habitat fragmentation, mainly when the road is built across the forest area or the forest reserve or the protected areas. And and the further impact is illegal settlement, when the people know that it's the easy access for them to open up a new area for their settlement, for their new house. And of course, one of the activities that they have to open up the forest, and sometimes they will create the wildfire in the sorry in the forest. And also, if the area is have a very good mineral, they will do the illegal mining, particularly for gold, for example. And also, if there's a very rich with the timber, they will carry out the illegal logging or deforestation, and also the land speculation. Land speculation means that they will try to get the easy money, because the land is already have the access, easy access, so they can put the high price for the land, and also the pollution, and also and the poaching, of course. Okay, next. So this the very brief fact about our problem when we talk about this wildlife crossing or or wildlife roadkill in Peninsula Malaysia. According to these features or for the figures, in average, we will record about 300 to 500 cases a year about the roadkill, mainly for species like monitor lizard, for the reptiles, and also for the long-tailed macaque, wild boar, and also the tapir or Malayan tapir. For your information, for the last 2 years, we have about more than 20 cases of tapir been killed. So the okay back. Okay, we can see from the map, there is the red dotted, there is the hotspot area for the roadkill throughout Peninsula Malaysia, from the northern part in Perlis, also go through to the Johor. Okay, next. So at the national level, at the national level, our government already have what we call it a national physical plan in 2010, and from that national physical plan, they try to create the central forest spine to create the ecological leakages for environmental sensitive area, because our land is getting scarce, and also very most of our forested area already open up for the agricultural area. And there is 4 forest complexes involved, mainly in the main range and the Greater Taman Negara landscape, and the Southeast Pahang and Tasik Bera, Ramsar site, and the last one is in Darumpin State Park throughout Peninsula Malaysia. So after about 10 years, they already review the plan. So we come up with a new Central Forest Plan Master Plan in 20 that launched until to the policy is in the connectivity of the forest landscape through the prevention of physical leakage. Next. So at this department level, we have 3 document books to refer when we this to build up the infrastructure. First one is wildlife impact study, yes, and the wildlife management WMP, and the third one is a guideline smart green linear infrastructure. So when they have a new project, they have to come to us, and then we will discuss about these 3 type of the guidelines. So next. So in this wildlife impact study or WS, it contains about something like importance of wildlife impact study, adherence to the policy and legislation, and about the requirement and procedure have to follow, and the method to use to do this study, and assessment of existing wildlife and its habitat, mitigation measures, and so on. So next. So for the wildlife management plan is very important because they will link this wildlife impact study and also to the EIA, environmental impact assessment. So through this wildlife management plan, they have to plan how to mitigate the human wildlife conflict, for example. Okay, next. And for this guideline, they will provide about this the reference on the dimension of the viaduct, for example. It depends on the size or depend on area involved, like for the small mammal to the elephant. Okay, next. So this is the implementation right now, what we do in Malaysia. Of course, this is very common in other countries also. We have to erected these signboards, street lights, and also the billboard, and mainly in the main elephant, the animal crossing. Okay. Okay, next. So this also the same one. This is mainly for elephant, for example, for tapir, and this is transverse bar and also solar amber light to slow down the speed of the traffic. So for the main one is the viaduct. The viaduct. This is the first project in Malaysia. We call it viaduct at Sungai Deka, Hulu Terengganu. They will involve the primary linkages 7 that connected Taman Negara National Park and also Tempat Permanent Forest Reserve. We have 3 viaducts, and was constructed from 2007 to 2008. It take about 2 years to complete this project. Okay, next. This is the second one, the second project, viaduct at Sungai Yu, Lifis Pahang, involve primary linkages 1 that connected Tanum Permanent Forest Reserve to the Sungai Yu Permanent Forest Reserve. The Tanum Forest Reserve is close to our national park. And this is the last one, viaduct at Greek Perak. Involve primary linkages 2 that connected Temanggu Permanent Forest Reserve to the Royal Bloom State Park, one of the main habitat for our Malayan tiger. Okay, next. So we come to the last one. What we talk today is about the case study. So we have we call it ECRL project, or East Coast Rail Link. This project is a very mega project that connected 4 states, Kelantan, Terengganu, Pahang, and Selangor. About 665 kilometer long railway. So we expected that this project will be finished on the 2027. So right now it's 2024. So another 3 years to go. So the main features is there are multiple viaducts, about 100 kilometer in length, that have to be along the railway project. Okay, next. So our government also asked this contractor to support the government in terms of to conserve the wildlife within this habitat, that because of this railway. So there is agreement between the CC or ECRL company and the Perhitan on the 29th of July 2022. So in the agreement, the company already agree that they will provide us to allocate about 9 million Malaysian ringgit to do our conservation work and to monitor the impact of the wildlife and the habitat along the ECRL project. Okay, next. So for the implementation of implementation of the wildlife management plan for this ECR project, they have four main program, namely wildlife rescue operation, wildlife mitigation and conflict control, and monitoring and enforcement of Act 716. Act 716 is Wildlife Conservation Act, our Wildlife Conservation Act, and also the public awareness. Okay, next. So this is some example of these activities. We do our wildlife rescue operation when they have a report conflict between human and wildlife along the railway project. Okay, next. So this another example for wildlife mitigation and conflict control. They have built up 11 wildlife culvert box with the dimension about 5.3 meter height and 6 meter width. Mainly in the Kamasul Permanent Forest Reserve, because in Kamasul Forest Reserve is our also the main habitat for elephant. So they have to build up the wildlife culvert box to make sure the elephant can cross safely. Okay, next. And this is also the construction of vehicle box culvert in the Kamasul Forest Reserve with the dimension about 4.5 meter height and also 6 meter width. There are 28 of this kind of the VBC or vehicle box culvert. Okay, next. Another program is monitoring and enforcement of Act 716. So we are from time to time to do our checking and patrolling to the workers' site to see if there is any illegal possession of wildlife or illegal hunting by the workers. So okay, next. And then for that, we also conduct our public awareness program with their workers, with their employees during this project to make sure there is no illegal activities in there when they stay at the site. Okay, next. So the conclusion is it is very important to avoid and minimize the linear transport infrastructure project development, especially within protected areas, because as we know that protected areas is very important for habitat of our wildlife, and also the grid infrastructure planning is vital for protecting and connecting wildlife habitats, and coordination of policies among the stakeholders is very important to execute the plan. Because in Malaysia, we have two systems. The first one is a federal and also the state government. Sometimes at the site, the state government also have their own planning. So our in federal have our own planning. So they need to coordinate about the policies among these two parties. And then the last one is providing safe passage for wildlife require adequate and financial allocation. From the example of the viaducts, there are millions of ringgit need to have when we want to build a viaduct. So the government has to prepare this financial to make sure that our wildlife and our habitat is purely secured and purely protected. So I think that's all for my presentation. Thank you for your time. Back to you, Manish.
Thank you, Salmanji, for that detailed presentation on the efforts and the importance of actually giving us a model where we can see that how a corridor has not only been protected, but it has also been made part of the national policies which are related not directly to conservation but overall development. And these are initiatives, I think, which inspire the range country governments to take up the landscape approach. So when we always talk about landscape, it's not only where we are talking of beautifying a given space. We are talking in large whatever remaining wilderness that can be protected and to allow the wildlife movement and linkages therein. So we'll come to more questions once the three speakers have finished their session. So, sir, we would request you to please be in the webinar if possible, because we'll have a question round also later. Now, I take this opportunity to introduce uh, my good friend, we commonly call him Hazril Ji, and he's a very famous personality in Malaysia on the Tiger agenda. And he's also the Global Tiger Forum focal point and has undertaken tremendous efforts, especially on leading the first National Tiger Survey, where Malaysia accurately came out with a global tiger number, which we are also using it for all the GTRP initiatives. So Mr. Hazli graduated with Bachelor of Forestry from University Putra, Malaysia, and is a Senior Assistant Director under the Department of Wildlife and National Parks in Peninsular Malaysia. He is a dedicated conservationist with almost 16 years of experience in wildlife conservation, mainly focusing on the Malayan tiger. As I mentioned earlier, he has led the first National Tiger Survey in Malaysia. He is also involved with the planning, coordinating, implementing, and monitoring the actions under the National Tiger Conservation Action Plan. And he's also been closely associated with all the partners during the formation of the MyTTF in Malaysia, which is the Malayan Tiger Task Force. Uh, he has trained and collaborated with institutions like the Global Tiger Forum, Wildlife Institute of India, Smithsonian Institute of USA, the Global Tiger Initiative of the World Bank, uh, and several international NGOs, and has been closely involved with other tiger range countries on regional cooperation. It is my immense pleasure to hand the session to Hazril and listen to his take on the Malayan Tiger initiatives.
Thank you very much, Mr. Monisji. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening from Malaysia. First of all, I would like to thank WWF of India and the Global Tiger Forum for hosting the webinar series on the safeguarding nature in tiger range countries by focusing at the Malaysian case study and leveraging opportunities for infrastructure. So in this evening, my presentation will cover some Malaysia experiences, available data and information related to the Malayan tiger perspective in Peninsular Malaysia. So for my introduction, a little bit about Malaysia. Malaysia is one of the world's 17 mega diverse country. Malaysia already undergone rapid economic development since its independence, which is attributed to the utilization of the country-rich natural resources and human capital development. Based on the latest information statistic, approximately 50% of the country total land area is still forested, including permanent forest reserve, PRF, state land forests, national parks, wildlife, and bird sanctuaries. This is in line with Malaysia's commitment to maintaining at least 50% of the forest and tree cover in perpetuity as pledged at the 1992 Rio Earth Summit. On the global front, Malaysia is a party to various biodiversity-related multilateral environmental agreements, such as the Convention on Biological Diversity, CBD, and the Convention on International Trade in Endangered of Fauna and Flora Species, CITES. Malaysia is a home for 10 species of cats, including 4 species of big cats, namely Malayan tiger, leopard, clouded leopard, Bornean clouded leopard. Yeah? And then in Malaysia, the Malayan tiger is among of 6 tiger subspecies in the world that still survive with difficulties in Peninsular Malaysia. From 1950, the Malayan tiger population plummeted from 3,000 tigers to below 150 tigers in 2020. Okay, next slide. This is an overview about the Malayan tiger landscape in Malaysia. Just can be found in Peninsular Malaysia, in most of the major forested area ranging from north to south in the 8 states in Peninsular Malaysia. The Malayan tiger are not naturally found in Borneo state of Sarawak and Sabah. Malayan tiger are generalists in terms of the habitat they prefer in Malaysia. They are found habitat ranging from the lowland forest to the low mountain forest up to the higher mountain. Due to dense cover, we are rarely rare seen our Malayan tiger in the forest. So Malaysia already identified 3 important landscape for tiger habitat within the center forest mine, as shown in the maps. You can see the Banjaran Titik Wangsa or the main range, Greater Taman Negara, and the Southern Forest Complex. Under these 3 priority areas, about 5% have been declared as protected area and managed as national parks or state parks. In addition, a large portion of the forest in Peninsular Malaysia is also protected for sustainable use in the form of forest reserve that are managed by the Forestry Department. Part of this forest are further protected as water catchment area and are also gazetted as the non-hunting area where the samba deer and other prey species are protected for the Malayan tiger. Next slide. So the increasing demand from the black market abroad for the Malayan tiger and its derivative has put its population under threat. The illegal hunting of Malayan tiger is carried out by highly skilled syndicate and is suspected to have linked to other criminal activity networks. These international poaching syndicates have been a serious problem in recent decades and have proved challenging to address. Of course, we identified that although less of threat in Malaysia when compared to other Southeast Asia TRCs, indiscriminating hunting using the wire snare is still remain a serious issue in Peninsular Malaysia. The other issue are the integrity of the tiger habitat in Peninsular Malaysia are various, including lack of protection, natural forest loss, degradation, and loss of the connectivity in the remaining tiger habitat. Malaysia remaining wild tiger are increasing isolate and exposed in fragmented and prey-depleted forests, which greatly compromises in the ability to maintain a healthy breeding and genetically diverse population. And of course, the retaliatory killing of tiger in conflict situation also occur when tiger are displaced, encroached into human settlement. Okay, next. In the 6th meeting of the Malaysian National Biodiversity and Biotechnology in 2009, I was very concerned about our Malayan tiger population threatened in Peninsular Malaysia. Therefore, the Malaysian Cabinet already agreed to adopt the National Tiger Conservation Action Plan implemented from 2008 to 2020 to ensure that this species remain wild in its original habitat. During the implementation of this plan, there are 4 main objectives has been formulated. The goal of this plan is to increase the Malayan tiger population up to 1,000 tigers in the wild. This is a very big goal for Malaysia to achieve, but somehow we after the National Tiger Survey, the figure is not very encouraging. So to achieve this objective, there are 80 actions have been proposed to implement by 40 agencies. Of this total, 59 action under our Wildlife Department, and the remaining action under the federal and state government agencies and also the NGOs. So the Malayan Tiger Survey is the more important necessity action under the National Tiger Action Plan. The first National Tiger Survey was a mammoth program led by the Department of Wildlife and National Park with the collaboration with such several NGOs such as WWF-India, WCF-Malaysia, Pelindung, and also RIMBA under the 11 Mission Plan funding from 2016 to 2020. A total of 44,000 square kilometers within the Central Forest Mine area was surveyed under this first NTS. We are using the camera trap methods to capture tiger photo and identify individual of tiger by comparing their stripes. Other than Malayan tiger, there are many wildlife species are also captured during the survey period. Although the completion of the first National Tiger Survey from 2016 to 2020 represented a major achievement, the finding is not very encouraging. The result from this first National Tiger Survey from 2016 to 2020 shows that the Malayan tiger population is decreasing by less than 150 individuals in the wild. So if the way forward is the business as usual, so Malayan tiger will be extinct in the wild in the next 5 years, as the expert says, and the extraordinary action must be taken to mitigate the Malayan tiger population in crisis. Okay, next. And then from the first national tiger, before this, previous slide, please. Okay, next, the next one. Okay, from the first NTS finding, Malaysian tiger expert has already gathered to discuss and draw the line to further action to solve the Malayan tiger crisis. I will describe and consider drivers of Malaysian tiger decline. We see that they are constrained to effective tiger conservation. To that, we are now designing the new action plan to replace the National Tiger Conservation Action Plan, the NTCAP they have been done from 2008 to 2020 to the new plan, namely the Malayan Tiger Crisis Action Plan, after the Malayan tiger population has decreased at below 150. Even though the Malayan Tiger Crisis Action Plan actually has not been published, it is currently at the final stage to be endorsed during the National Tiger Task Force meeting chaired by the Honorable Prime Minister in September 2024. So it will coming soon. Some of the important strategies actually have been approved and implemented through Cabinet or the MyTTF, the National Tiger Task Force decision. Okay. So the Malaysian Cabinet agree with the strategic action for the Malayan tiger conservation for a period 10 years, starting from 2021 to 2030, and under 3 initiatives. If you can see, the first initiative is to strengthen effort to stop the decline of Malayan tiger population through enforcement and control by patrolling, more boots on the ground, strengthening the Special Protected Area Response Team, SPARTA, as well, the preservation and conservation of the Malayan tiger habitat, tiger natural habitat. The second initiative is to improve good governance and effectiveness in implementing Malayan tiger conservation through the establishment of the National Tiger Task Force at the national level, the establishment of the Malayan Tiger Conservation Unit under the Wildlife Department, establish the Wildlife Crime Bureau under the Royal Malaysian Police to exterminate the wildlife smuggling syndicate, and the strengthening of the National Wildlife Forensic Laboratory as a center of excellence for the ex situ conservation of Malayan tiger. And the third initiative is to ensure the survival of the Malayan tiger through the provision of innovative financial instruments for tiger range state in Peninsular Malaysia to support Malayan tiger conservation activities and improve the Malayan tiger habitat management through an accreditation scheme such as CATS, Green List, METT, and other relevant schemes. All these 9 strategic actions actually proposed in the our new Malayan Tiger Conservation Action Plan are designed to address the current crisis threatening the existence of the Malayan tiger by both reinforcing ongoing initiative by prompting the new high impact initiative. The next, this is from my last presentation. My conclusion: the Malayan tiger and its habitat urgently need protection if we want to see the Malayan tiger still survive in this century and beyond. This requires sustainable support from global communities, federal and state government, corporation, NGOs, and local community. We could lose this impressive range of benefits present of tiger habitat along with these iconic species if we don't act immediately and effectively. As a Malaysian, we stand together to protect our Malayan tiger as our symbol of our country that appear in our national emblem, which we call it Jata Negara. So, for last not least, I would like to thanks again to WWF of India Global Tiger Forum for hosting this very fruitful webinar and to everyone for attending today's session. With that, I end my presentation. Thank you again.
Thank you, Fazil ji, and it's always heartening to see the amazing efforts that Malaysia is undertaking on the tiger front. And now, as I had mentioned earlier, we have heard the stories from Malaysia and how the country is trying to revive the tiger population as well as addressing other development trajectories around it. So, I take this opportunity now to introduce our next speaker who's going to talk about uh, her experience as well as how an international financial institution is linked to the global goals of biodiversity or the tiger. Ms. Neha Vyas is a senior environment specialist with the World Bank's Environment, Natural Resources and Blue Economy Global Practice, and India Coordinator on Environment Risk Management. In more than 25 years of her professional life, she has promoted and led sustainability initiatives towards mainstreaming environment, health, and safety aspects into sectoral policies and programs. She represents the World Bank on many committees with mandates on environment management, climate resilience, including Indian Roads Congress and National Think Tank on Geospatial Technologies. She also supports and delivers training programs in several institutions, including the Indian Institute of Management, International Association for Impact Assessment, and other environment engineering and industry association. I have had the pleasure of hearing her presentations in many Tiger forums, and I take this opportunity to invite you, Nehaji, for this presentation.
Thank you, Manish. I'll just share my screen and double check if it is visible, if you can confirm.
Yeah, it's coming up in a bit. I think it's there. You can put it on the slide. Yeah.
Right. So, good afternoon, everyone. And it's certainly a pleasure to be again among the like-minded people for whom wildlife and protection of these areas and species is of primary interest. What I would like to do today is just take a few moments to, take a deeper dive into where the Indian experience has been on leveraging opportunities. And before I talk about finance, I always believe that it's good technical propositions, it is good value additions. It's basically the intent which will help you in, tapping in resources. Resources come at the fag end. It's the technical side of the storyline which we have to, deal with in the beginning. So this is a snippet where I'll start with the Indian snapshot because I'm sure that many of us are not aware of how the evolution of green infrastructure story has been happening in India, where it started from and where we are today. And then I would like to share a few tips on how to leverage sustainable finance, green finance, whatever term you use, basically the financial resources that are needed to take care of our wilderness, our wild animals, and this rich natural resources that we have. And this story is focusing on India particularly. There is a lot of global experience that the World Bank has. We have had a number of forums, a number of global platforms that the bank has been supporting on biodiversity. But since the audience today is primarily from India, I wanted to make sure that I keep my focus on the Indian story. And towards the end, I just wanted to share a few tips and takeaways from my side on how and what we can do and where our mindsets and changing behaviors and perspectives can help in taking forward the agenda. So just to start with a snapshot on green infrastructure, I really like Ridhima's tagline in her email where she says that every idea when it starts off, it starts with certain eccentric ways of look when people look at it in that manner. And this was exactly what was happening to us in late 90s when road ecology issues, when linear infrastructure issues started coming up. There was not much capacity, there was not much understanding in the country on how to deal with it. We had excellent, and we have excellent scientists, research groups, organizations who have worked on the conservation side of the game. But when it comes to bringing that science with the engineering sciences of how to deal with development, and particularly linear infrastructure, late 90s was a time when people were actually laughing at us, taking photographs of dead snakes and animal kills and talking about the rights of animals and things like that. So it started from that journey, and India's aspirations of developing as on the infrastructure side was something that had to be balanced out. We still haven't been able to do it, but in these last 2.5 decades, we have come a long way from apathy all the way to mainstreaming, and a number of case studies and examples which are actually can be quoted as global leads. And there is of course a lot more that we need to do. So where were we? That was the time, late 90s, when India started its infrastructure revolution. Highways, we have ended up having in these last 20 years more than 6.4 million kilometers. If you look at the railway network, it is again one of the highest in the world. We have more than 126,000 kilometers of railway network, with an average of 14 kilometers getting built every single day. And that's the average length that India is tackling. In addition to that, we have 481,000 kilometers of power network, canals, irrigation, on top of it, urbanization, agriculture expansion, you name it. And there is a havoc that's happening in the country, particularly from the wildlife and biodiversity perspective. No wonder we were at a juncture where we had to relook at these things. And that is when the realizations on how infrastructure and other development projects were becoming a barrier to animal movement. In fact, even survival of certain species was becoming a questionable thing as India expanded. Initially, there was a lot of pushback and not the willingness to take up these issues, because everybody wanted to see development coming up in a big way. And a country which is in that sphere where you're trying to move into the developed side of the world, these kind of issues became a big problem. So how did India start? From that ridicule and apathy that we were facing, we were asked as wildlife professionals and ecologists to bring hard evidence on the ground. We did not have many numbers. We did not have a lot of research. We did not have case studies. We did not have a lot of information that could be backed up. And that's when a series of photographic evidences, numbers, smaller studies started across a number of projects, and World Bank projects particularly took a primary role in bringing together the science, because even within the bank, road ecology was a new area. And this habitat fragmentation, fatalities, and conflicts that were increasing across the landscape of the country were then taken to a new level. Now, in case of India, we have a significant protection when it comes to protected domains, national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, recognized areas. There is still a regulatory oversight, and there are things that are well managed. But we had a havoc when it came to areas which were outside the protected domains, those corridors which were connecting, and that, as Rajesh was mentioning, that area that the signature species, big species like tigers and elephants need, were really facing the stress. So from lack of awareness and limited data availability, we came to a stage where we wanted to do things, but we did not have enough code, enough guidelines, enough platforms where interdepartmental coordination could be made. What the engineers wanted and what the conservation fraternity wanted, there were not very many platforms. There were a lot of delivery pressures on infrastructure folks to make sure that projects could take off. Also, there was a lot of debate about who will bear the cost, and this cost and this debate still ranges. So there came 4 projects I'm highlighting from the plethora of work that India was doing. This was one of the first projects which became a game changer. It happened in the western part of the country in Gujarat, where we had one road and one species, the wild ass, which became the epitome of discussion. And at that point in time, no one, including the World Bank, had that knowledge to deal with this issue. And it was a hit and trial and experiments that happened at the state level, which finally led to a number of studies mapping out where the crossings were happening. And then a set of mitigation measures were brought into the design of those roads, which included engineering as well as non-engineering interventions. On the engineering side, we had these underpasses that got created. We had on the non-engineering side, we had fodder plot preparations. We had rainwater harvesting structures because water was a primary reason why the animals were crossing over. We had signage and informatory boards that came in. We had a lot of water bodies that were rehabilitated to make sure that the wildlife does not end up crossing over into other areas in want of water. These desilting that was done in these water bodies was then created to, because there was not much money to take away the desilted material into proper disposal sites, they were created into mounds and then protected. We did not realize at that point in time that these mounds would become the perching grounds for the birds, and there were many, many other species that got benefited, including the desert fox. We had reptiles, we had all kinds of birds, including flamingos, for whom these habitats became a very important thing. Today, Gujarat project uses these sites on ecological tourism and awareness generation for school children. The second big project that started changing the narrative was the Himachal State Roads project, where we had, again, a very, very difficult terrain, a lot of environmental issues, but again, through mapping, through a number of engineering and non-engineering interventions, including keeping and recognizing the right of way for wildlife became important. Bioengineering was another very important element that Himachal project brought in 2005-06. And today, this is a very important element into how landscape can be restored back. This picture that you see on your screen was within 8 months of the road cuts and debris disposals that were made in that landscape. And bioengineering helped in restoring it in a very, very fast manner. Today, we have more than 300 such sites. Unfortunately, the same is not happening on the larger national highway project, but state highways in Himachal have done really well in imbibing these practices. The third project, which was again of big importance and learning for all of us, was the Odisha State Roads project, where we dealt from mosquitoes to elephant, the entire range of biodiversity in the state. And the work that was done under this project was the first comprehensive biodiversity assessment that India had done. And mitigation and management measures today serve as important sites for the programs that are happening. MOEF uses those elephant underpass designs extensively and promotes that. There are a number of initiatives from this project which became, including reptile underpasses, which were again the first in the country that were done under this project. The fourth one that I'm picking up from the World Bank basket is the Assam State Roads project, where we developed more than 800 kilometers of highways. But two major things that were done here was a strategic assessment study to make sure that highways or roads that were going through critical habitats were not picked up and alternatives were developed in place of those to make sure that our biodiversity doesn't get impacted. WWF was again a very important partner in this work that we did and the assessment, particularly around the Pobitara Wildlife Sanctuary, and the first rhino underpasses ever that were created in India and in South Asia. And to my best of knowledge, even elsewhere in the world, Assam was the first project where it came in. And also a number of other elements were taken up for other species. All of this in conjunction with the NH 6 and 7 cases. So I'm sure you are aware, many of you are aware about what happened. This was a fait accompli situation on the National Highway North-South network, where our roads were going through, national highways were going through the Kanha Pench wilderness areas. It became a big debate, and the court cases and subsequently a lot of learnings that came out of it opened doors for what India created, the ecologically friendly measures to mitigate impacts of linear wildlife. World Bank, the National Tiger Conservation Authority, and Wildlife Institute of India were partners into writing this. But we also got the National Highways of India adopt this. And today this serves as the national guidelines, which ministry has adopted and very vocally promotes in the various clearances that get taken away. So where are we after all of this? The fait accompli situation turned out into the world's longest underpass. More than 7,000 animals have been crossing and using these structures even when the construction was going on and cleanup had not been completed. So over a period of time, more than 7,000 animals have been using it, which means that these engineering structures did serve the purpose for which they are doing it. Learning a lesson from this, there are already another 7 to 8 major underpasses that the where the National Highways of India is constructing and taking them forward. There are also traffic calming measures, community sensitization measures, etc., that have been taken. And these are all examples of what India is doing from the time where nobody wanted to put in even a small pot of money for wildlife structures to having some of the largest viaducts in the world and in the country are coming in. Rajesh, you also mentioned about smart infrastructure and use of technology and artificial intelligence. So there's a lot of GIS related platforms that are being used, artificial intelligence, modeling, research and projections, and multiple other forms of technology that are finding way into how India deals with this. Last but not the least, we also had this declaration on the National Green Highways Mission. There is a lot more that can be done under that. It started as a plantation-related movement, but it also opened doors of looking at wildlife corridor management and biodiversity as part and parcel of this work. Of late, again, it had gone into a lull for a while, but again, the mission has got revived, and there is a lot of plantation, forestry, restoration work that this mission is taking up. On top of that, there was a lot of sensitization that had to be built in, community engagements, partnerships, including WWF. The ministry, of course, is very much a part of it, NTCA, in different shapes and forums. This partnership for green and resilient infrastructure in India continues. Now, why have I shared this story? It is important for us to remember that opportunities have to be tapped. They have to be created. And when we see a dark cloud, we have to start, drawing and finding those silver linings, which can then expand into, some of those most tangible gains that we can do. Not that I'm saying that India's story is over or we have done a lot, but I think today we have all those platforms, code, guidelines, examples, first-hand experiences, apart from learning from international cases like the Malaysian case stories that were just presented, to be able to move towards a green pathway. Biodiversity is one of those elements of the greener pathway, but resilience, resource efficiency, carbon footprints, safety, livelihoods, people's movement, there are a number of other things that are also getting included in the Indian story. And it did not stop here. Learning our lessons, we were also able to help other countries in Africa. And this one example is from Nepal, where, the first time wildlife underpass came in, and this was again a World Bank project. And during the construction period itself, a tiger crossed, even though this was not designed for tigers. This was meant for smaller animals and mammals. And we still had a tiger crossing, which happened. And it was encouraging for Nepal. And now they are trying to take forward that story. And these are some snippets from there. This presentation will be with you, so you'll be able to go back and research on what these projects did. Now, learning lessons from this, we realize that we do not have to fight for finance. I know many of our wildlife friends and enthusiasts will say that no, finance is important. Yes, it is. It helps us in translating our vision and dreams on the ground. But the big lesson that we have learned, and I can definitely share my story because I used to be with the government and then moved on to be with the bank. I realized that there is no good proposal that will not get funded. Every good idea will find funding. Every good idea will find the support that it needs, financial included. The only pitch that we have to remember as far as green finance is considered, that our justification and narrative has to be so strong that it cannot be refuted. So what's happening in the field of green finance these days? These buzzwords are there. We use different terms for it, but no matter which way you look at it, ultimately it's the pot of money that we use for making sure that environment-friendly investments can come in, environment-friendly projects can come in, etc. And here we have a very beautiful opportunity. Since the environmental, social, and governance aspects in the private sector are gaining importance, and this is becoming one of the important criteria for financing, we have to tap into this in a big way. In addition to what the government puts on the table through its budgetary sources, it's important to leverage what the private sector can bring in. Many institutions today are looking at bankable and sustainable projects. They do not want to trap themselves into court cases which have happened in the past. They don't want reputational hits on them, and lot of it hinges on how we can put our narrative together so that the green financing options can open up. Among the many different things, there is the green bond option. We did a study, and that's available in public domain, which looked at how for green and biodiversity related work, and this was done about 4 or 5 years back, how this could attract more finances. But one realization that is important to keep in mind is that if we are not able to put back clear reporting standards and reports into the public domain, the trust factor of our investors will fade away. So it's good to talk about tigers. We understand as a fraternity what it means and why it is important to save it. But we have to demystify and decode what the tiger conservation or environmental conservation or biodiversity conservation means to a common man. How does it mean in terms of livelihood? It's the quality of life. So it has to be made into a language and narrative which is more than the wilderness story. One risk that we have if we don't look at it very carefully and do not do this transparent ways of putting our report cards into public domain is that very, very soon we will be blamed for greenwashing. And this is something that we should be all very well aware of, that establishing standards, having proper measurement frameworks, and creating systems to talk about what our work means at the end of the day will be important. Otherwise, this potential risk of greenwashing label can hit us very quickly. Moving on to very quickly, without getting into details on where and how you can look at it, this is a very beautiful initiative, UNDP initiative, which was JEF funded, and there are many interesting ideas on how biodiversity finance plans can be made and how they can be made effective. In addition to that, the Pro Green World Bank initiative is also in the public domain. Among knowledge and policy and technical assistance, in addition to that, it also talks about how co-financing can be generated, how to catalyze those resources, how to bring in national and international resources and fudge that together and bring it together to make sure that we have more that is needed to translate our vision into documents. And here are some very interesting snippets of what we can do in parallel. One important element that came out from this is, before we talk of financing, we must make sure that we have very clear-cut biodiversity strategies, action plan, targets, and expenditure projections that are done at our end. We cannot go and start digging a well when we are thirsty, right? These are preparations that we will have to do well in advance. And this is that planning, and this is that homework that is needed before we can mobilize more resources. There are a number of issues on the green financing. I'll not get into that, but I just wanted to bring together a couple of examples. This is not related directly to biodiversity, but these are all the financing and initiatives that India is making, and there is a lot of green support for that. This includes the Make in India scheme and bringing in energy efficiency and resource efficiency, production efficiencies, which again all translate into environmental actions. There is stuff that's happening on the Solar Alliance, which many of you are well aware of. There is National Green Hydrogen Mission, which has just started shaping up in the last couple of years. There are a number of these initiatives where government has been able to find resources. And if you look at some of these statistics and data that is available in the public domain, and Ministry of Finance, Government of India has been putting that together, there are many opportunities that we can tap into. Now, for a wildlife lover, we may say, what do I have to do with a national infrastructure pipeline? But I would say that this is the very first thing that we must do to strategize our work, because this is where we are getting an indication of what the nation is thinking, where are the areas that they will go, which are those need to get impacted, and we start preparing and informing the national infrastructure pipeline so that biodiversity doesn't have to wait till the last moment, but we can start embedding it in the planning, design, and construction processes as this comes up. The other big piece which we have normally not looked at as wildlife lovers is the regulatory reforms. I'm not talking of the environmental or the wildlife protection laws, but there are several other reforms that are happening in the financial space where we can bring in the biodiversity element and make it as a part and parcel of how the financing would be used for larger infrastructure so that biodiversity related concerns are taken care of. Here are some numbers. I'm not going to get into the details, but for example, this fund with the Japanese bank, the JBEC, and there are many other such things where you'll see a huge corpus of funds has been raised. Similarly, the sovereign green bonds. If you look at the numbers, just in 1 year, the government of India has been able to raise several billion, several crores, thousands of crores of rupees. And these are big numbers. So if the sovereign green bond is actually bringing in this money, why are we not able to tap in? I think there is some introspection that we need to do so that we can link up when these kind of financial offers are being, coming to the table. To conclude, I will just say that there is a lot of growth that our country has seen in terms of how the financing and investments can come in. Particularly the last 1 decade, there are game changers in the way we think about financing, particularly for green infrastructure and green roads. And the ambition continues. So we have to find out that, and we have to make sure that we don't take a pause or a breather in what has happened, but use more of concerted efforts with the government and with our private players to take forward this. To end, I will just say that we have to recalibrate our strategy by looking at 5 important elements. First, keep an eye on the development trajectory. Don't wait for the road to come into our tiger landscape and wilderness landscape and then we start a movement around it. No, we have to be able to foresee it and then make sure that we can intervene at the right time in the right manner, including when the financing and planning is happening. Second is, once we know that these are XYZ plans that are coming up, making sure that our baseline, our research, our biodiversity plans, wildlife conservation plans are updated, not only from a pure ecological perspective, but also to be able to bring in these sectoral dimensions and interventions at the right time. This also means that we have to evaluate what we have done in the past, how effective we have been, and then make sure that we can tweak and learn those tweak our strategy based on those lessons that have been learned. The third and the most important element is the power of communication. Talking amongst ourselves doesn't help all the time. Taking the narrative out to the finance ministry stable, to the infrastructure agency stable is very important. And that narrative should not be driven from an ecological perspective. It should have winning proposition for the other party. What I mean by this is that we have to also put ourselves into those shoes. As long as we are using roads and airports and water and power, we have no business to say don't do it. But do it responsibly. Leave the core areas in peace. Don't end up, fracturing those and fragmenting those is what we want to convey. The other important element that I would like to make is that we have to understand finance. If we don't do that, and this is a very hard lesson that I learned as an ecologist and as an environmental lover, that if we don't understand the game of finance, we will not be able to leverage the opportunities. And last but not the least, no matter how much distressed and we feel, how much disillusioned we feel with the mayhem that's going around us, we must find a seat at the table or bring our own chair and be at the table, because continuity and engagement will make a turning point in the way we deal with it. So with these many words and many slides and lots of points that I made, I'm turning it back to Monish, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention. Monish, back to you.
Thank you, Neha-ji. And it was a very detailed talk on not only the projects that can be undertaken, but we all understand that we do talk about financial literacy that people should have, but it's also about the conservation finance as a subject itself that needs to be brought into various modules of training as conservation practitioners, because as we all know that solely depending on some sovereign funds or some grants won't serve the purpose with the kind of mandate we are looking at in terms of protecting these areas. So thank you for that talk, and I hand it over to Dr. Ritima for the Q&A round.
Thank you, Monish. Thank you, all the participants. It was wonderful and very informative session. To be honest, I'm still trying to digest it. I just wanted to continue what Monish has said on the last slide of Neha, especially. So our project is basically involving 3 countries, that is Mongolia, Nepal, and India. And Neha, in some way or the other, you have covered all the 3 countries. How I'll say is by talking about the drier area of India, some way or the other, we have recently understood that what safeguard measure Mongolia is taking in the desert landscape and what are the challenges, what they are trying to do. And then definitely Nepal, you have talked about the particular project case study from Nepal also. And in India, we have under our aligned project, we have 4 states where we are currently working in. One of the state is Assam, where we are trying to understand the safeguard measures. So to start with, I will just take up question for Neha first, because Andre has posed some question in the question and answer box. He has asked that please clarify what is required to move from isolated project interventions to a consistent landscape level engagement. What is your view on landscape level green bonds that can mobilize a multitude of players and investment instruments working in the same direction of meeting landscape sustainability KPIs?
Thanks, Ridhima, for the question. Just to clarify before I respond to Andre, the example that I gave was actually from Gujarat, the Little Run of Kutch, and not Mongolia. So I was basically confining myself to the Indian experience. And that was the wildlife of the Little Run of Kutch that was the first one where we dealt with rural ecology issues. Now, Andre, thank you for those questions. The storyline that I presented was actually trying to showcase in a very limited time the movement from isolated project intervention. So these were ring-fenced World Bank operations. On top of it, we had this national highway case that happened where even Rajeshri was involved as a technical mediator on that particular. So these convergence actually helped us in translating all of this into the guidelines which the government has now adopted, Government of India. Second is that because of this push and initiatives and also the awareness that is coming in, more and more of our national highway and other state highway programs are imbibing these biodiversity interventions as part and parcel of infrastructure planning. Is it happening consistently with quality? The answer is definitely no, because there is India being such a large country and so many players and so much of changes in political and bureaucratic landscape. This is a work that we have to continuously do. And this is where like-minded partners like WWF and JEF and many other agencies and ADB, all of us have to come together to keep the dialogue going and making sure that lessons can be learned. So it's already happening, but I don't think so there is any end to it. We have to take it forward. On the green bonds, yes, including the experience that the bank has on the green bond side of it, I think there is a good model that is already there. And there are many people and many funds who are actually interested in putting money into protecting environment and people rather than putting black and brown infrastructure. We know the Japanese pension fund story. We know what's happening and the demands that are coming from citizens. So I'm sure the green bonds can help. The only problem that we have at this point in time is to make sure that the green bonds do not end up doing a lip service or greenwashing, but are actually diverted for the kind of causes and biodiversity conservation and environmental agenda items that we have, including the climate part of the game. So I hope, Andre, I've been able to partially answer. I'll also type it in and send more detail.
Thank you, Neha. Salmanji, I would like to come back to you with one of the question, because you very explicitly talked about the case study of the railway and the development overlap when linear infrastructure, when we talk about railways and wildlife habitat overlap. So in India, we are definitely starting to use technology, especially in Assam, we are using some of the technology where this mitigation measure is one of the part of mitigation pressure is usage of technology to reduce wildlife and linear development conflict. Do you think that in Malaysia also this technology is the way forward, or it will be contributing in near years, or it is already in progress? You have already initiated the progress on it.
Okay, thank you for that question, Ridima. I have to admit that we are still at the very early stage to implement what we call it like AI, artificial intelligence, to assist us to mitigate the human and wildlife conflict in our country. But basically, and also we don't have any expert on this field. Like we don't have any engineer to I mean to create the prototype of the device and so on. So that's why we need to collaborate with our local university partners. And then for now, for your information, we already have our good collaboration with the University Technology Petronas for this sensor of electric fencing for elephant. And then I believe in future we have more projects like that. Okay, that's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Salmanji. I think even in our project, a line project also, we would be, like you said, that there is a limitation of expertise. We would like to extend that through our project also in near future. We can have further discussion on that also if sub collaboration can happen, and we can provide under a line project some expertise. I think there's a question for you in the chat box. For India, this is from Rama Shankar Sharma. For India, the elephant underpass, the clearance required is in the range of 6 to 6.5 meter. In Malaysia, I saw in one slide, the size of culvert was 6 into 4.5 meter. So he is requesting a clarification on this. Is it because of the animal size or something, or geography, or what could be the reason of the dimension changes?
Okay, for that one, dimension is depend on the location of the site. Sometimes we have to build up the more bigger due to the landscape factors. But we have already we actually we have a standard size of the dimension. So it depends on the location of the site actually.
Yes, in our country also, the guidelines do specify there's a specific range also, and that is actually because of the geography of that particular area and elevation and everything. So next, I would like to put the question to Hazril ji also. Hazril ji, we were just going through your presentation when you talked about the first tiger survey and also the action plans that are being developed currently. There must be guidelines, there must be SOPs which are coming into picture. How much is the green infrastructure part, or how much priority that is being given in these SOPs and the guidelines development? Or is there in the coming near future, there will be more further specific development of certain SOPs when it comes to green infrastructure and as well as capacity building regarding the green infrastructure? Can you highlight on that perspective, please?
Thank you, Madam Redima. So actually, under the action plan, there are a lot of action inside it. So of course, of each line of each action, some of it need the guidelines and also SOP to ensure the action has been taken very smooth and swiftly. So in that, actually, it's been a lot. For example, recently we refine our guideline for tiger conflict issue. So we already have the manual, so we revise it into the latest situation and to accommodate our staff to do more precise job in the field. And of course, for the lean infrastructure also, we also, like Mr. Salmanji has already informed that in his presentation, we also do have the guidelines, and a few SOP have been taken out. And also, we also develop with the incorporate with other agency also with the Plan Malaysia. Of course, we want to ensure that state can follow the regulation that can accommodate between states and also the federal. So actually, there's a lot of recent the current SOP have been developed during previous 10 years, and of course, we need to continue to leverage it, and also we refine it to be more precise and more can be specifically address the issue in the field. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. And especially because of GTRP2, now that we are thinking of expanding the good quality habitat of tiger, and as well as at the same time developmental projects are coming in, I'm pretty sure the loss of habitat and everything must be taken care by the restoration programs also for the corridors, for the connectivity area. And do you have some specific initiatives on that aspect, or you are under the plan of working on those kind of things like restoration program of the corridor, more connectivity, better habitat?
Yes, of course. All this issue also have been taken care under the new Malayan Tiger Conservation Action Plan. So under the habitat, we also have the habitat restoration, enrichment, and so on. So I also saw the Andre question to clarify a bit about the federal funding. Of course, the federal government given very high commitment in terms of funding, especially for hiring locals to be part of the community rangers, including we also hiring the veteran police and army. We also hiring more staff for the department for Tiger Unit, as I mentioned before, and Wildlife Crime Unit under the police. So a lot of allocation have been agreed by the Malaysian government to bear the cost. And of course, a lot of activity, including such as the conservation program. Example, we also continuously do the survey at the hotspot when we identify tigers through the first national tiger survey. We still continue survey in the hotspot area, and also with the state we do a lot of awareness program, and the federal government also support those the 8 tiger range state with the support with the funding through the ecological fund transfer. So
Okay.
until now, actually, this year, this is about 42 million USD have been allocated for all 8 tiger range states. Actually, from these 2 years, more than I think 200,000 to 300,000 USD have been provided for Malayan tiger conservation itself. Of course, it also can accommodate for the other species conservation also.
Thank you, Azrulji. And I see in the question and answer box, we have our Deputy Chief of Parties, Padam Chand, sir's question. I think Salmanji would like to add on to what Hazralji has also spoken about it. Is there any reservation from Finance Ministry for allocating required budget for the implementation of wildlife management plan of the projects in Malaysia, as there is cost implication? So, Salmanji, would you like to add on to that?
Okay, thank you for that question. Yes, our government have a special fund through the Ministry of Finance or MOF for the for example, for the viaducts. The viaduct is under the Malaysian plan, for example, RMK or RMK. There is a Malaysian plan budget. But for the certain project, like electric hydro dams and so on, the project proponent have to bear the cost, not the government. Like the ECRL project, so the cost is under the contractor, so they have to bear the cost. But for the government project, like the viaducts, the Ministry of Finance will allocate some budget for that project. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Salmanji. And I think we do not have further questions right now. So I would just like to wrap it up now. And I did come across what Neha has also mentioned in her presentation, that safeguards, that is the title of our project also. So we believe that mitigation comes later on. The safeguards should be in place. Safeguards is included via the policies and robust policies, avoiding the areas which are very wildlife ecologically fragile area. Connectivity, we have to maintain the connectivity of forests. So that is the reason when I also first read about the project name as safeguard, and I was wondering that how is it different from it. This is what we were talking about. The prevention is better than cure. So mitigation strategies are always there, but I think safeguards are one of the first and foremost thing that we should take forward. So with that, I would like to invite Pramod ji to say thank you, because he is our lead for Align project. So Pramod ji, would you like to add?
Namaste. Thank you very much for this opportunity. So also, we are very much thankful about also the line of speakers, excellent presentations, very enlightening information, and so a lot of information coming in. So this is something very encouraging. Thank you very much. I would like to thank the introductory remarks. It was by Kate Newman. Thank you. She's the lead for infrastructure initiatives, and all her dedication for the last more than 30 years has been on infrastructure issues. Thank you very much for her kind remarks. I'd like to thank Dr. Rajesh Gopal for his very enlightening sort of speech on all the works that he has been leading in India's context. Similarly, we're thankful for Mr. Ravi Singh, who has given his kind remarks regarding all the initiatives that we're doing as a WWF logo, whatever is being implemented in India's context as well. We're especially thankful for Mr. Salman bin Saban and Mr. Hazril Rafanji for your experiences from Malaysia, which has been very much enlightening to not just countries like Nepal and India, which we have been learning a lot from your context as well. I remember that we visited your landscapes and also sharing all the information back in 2019 with the governmental representatives from Nepal as well, and from India as well. There has been some exposure visits, which are very nicely conducted. Thank you very much for that. Especially, we'd like to thank Neha Vyas for her excellent presentation and all enriched content with what we should be looking forward as not just the finance. I mean, her word, I'd like to reiterate that the finances should not be a problem as long as we have a better plan and a plan for implementation with a great proposal. So this is something very enlightening and encouraging to the context of where infrastructure issues when it comes to conservation could be, is expected to be very sort of costly in aspect. So with all this, I'd like to thank you, moderators, Dr. Ridhima Solanki, who is the coordinator for Align Project and Public Sector Partnerships as well. Mr. Monish Kapoor, who is the head of Program and Partnerships. Thank you very much. At last, I'd like to thank USAID, which without whose support we would not be able to conduct all these events. The Align project is being funded by USAID with a partnership of Center for Large Landscape Conservation. Thank you, GTF, for your enormous support throughout the process. We'll be conducting this sort of webinar series for all other 5 more webinars on this topic with other countries, including Bhutan, Thailand, Myanmar, and whatnot. So Nepal and India as well. So we'll be seeing you next. Until then, thank you and goodbye. Thank you very much for your kind presence. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Shukriya.
Thank you. Shukriya. Thank you.
Shukriya. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.